Man, this blanket is awesome. So let's talk a minute about the dimensions and the size and everything of this blanket. You saw some of the pictures that I put at the first of the video. I wish the color could shine through as good. Some of the shadows and the coloring, it just doesn't do it justice. But this blanket, it measures up 50 inches wide by 56 inches long. That's the dimensions. The foundation chain, it's 39 chains. There's a total of 21 rows altogether. I used 12 skeins of the jumbo yarn, medium 6-weight yarn by Mainstay. I'll show you some of the details on the yarn here in just a moment. But man, this is such a cool blanket. I'm loving this blanket. No border on it. It's a 1-row repeat. So let's get started and I'll show you everything you need and how to make this blanket. The coloring on the video is just not doing it justice at all. There, you can kind of see it now. Love this blanket. These are the items that you'll need for your project. The yarn that I'm using, the brand of it is Mainstay. You can get it at Walmart. Actually, all this yarn is some of the yarn that I got from my recent yarn haul. I'll put the link above so you can see the details on that yarn haul. It was massive. But anyway, this yarn, you can find it at Walmart. The brand's Mainstay, Chanel Chunky Yarn. The color on it is Ochre Harvest. And it's a medium 6-weight yarn. It calls for a size U crochet hook. I don't have a crochet hook that large. The one that I'm going to use is S. It's a 19mm crochet hook. I also found this at Walmart in a package where you get 2 of them. I think the other one is a Q or an R. I've got a large yarn needle, a couple of row markers or stitch markers, and I have some scissors. So let's get started and I'll show you how to make this project. The first thing we're going to do is make a slip knot, and you're going to leave a pretty good sized yarn tail there so you can sew it in. And we're going to take the yarn, wrap it around our fingers, and push it through the loop from behind. Grab it, and we're going to just draw it up and put that loop on our crochet hook. Pull that yarn tail and it draws up that yarn. One of the things you just need to be careful with is not to get the yarn too tight on the crochet hook. Now we're going to start our foundation chain. Our foundation chain is going to be 39 chains. So to do a chain, you put your hook underneath the yarn and you pull it through that loop of yarn that was on your hook. So again, you go underneath and you pull it through. Now, since I'm using a smaller hook, you just want to pull up a little bit, make sure you've got a loose loop there and it's easily able to move around. You don't want to be too tight in your chains. That tension, you don't want it too tight because we are using a smaller hook, so we just need to be careful. And you're going to go all the way down to 39 chains. And when you get there, come back and I'll show you how to start your first row of your blanket. See you back here in just a few moments when you get to 39 chains. Okay, now that you're down to 39 chains, what I want you to do, this last chain right here next to your hook, get your row marker and I want you to mark that chain. Just take your row marker and connect it there to that very last chain. Because when we come back on row 2, that's where we're going to end that row, is actually in that chain. So it's important to mark that stitch. It'll be easier now to mark it and then try to figure out where that stitch is later when we get to it. It's just and it keep your blanket nice and neat and straight as you're crocheting. So now we're going to do a double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook, and we're going to crochet into the back of the chain. Right here on the front, you see where they look like V's, right? That's your stitch. On the back, if you turn it over, there'll be a bump. You see this bump right here, this ridge? That's the back of your chain. We're going to crochet right into those ridges. We're going to go right into that stitch like that, where there's only one piece of yarn that's on our hook, and on the other side there'll be 2 pieces of yarn. And it'll give your blanket a nice neat finish when you're done, where the bottom of your blanket looks just as nice as the top of the blanket. So we're going to do a double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook. So yarn over and use your fingers to feel. That's the first one where you put your stitch marker. 2, there's 3, and there's 4. So we're going to go right into that 4th chain from the hook. Yarn over, take your hook, go right into that. There's only one piece of yarn. Yarn over and pull it through. Pull it up a little bit so it's loose. Yarn over and pull that yarn through the first 2 loops on your hook. Pull it up a little bit. And then yarn over and pull it through the last 2 loops of yarn on your hook. Pull it up a little bit. And that's a double crochet. Now we're going to double crochet into the back of every stitch all the way down your foundation row. So yarn over, go into the next bump, yarn over and pull it through. Then you're going to yarn over and pull it through the first 2 loops, then yarn over and pull it through the second 2 loops. Make sure to draw it up a little bit so it's loose. And again, into every stitch down your foundation chain to the very end, make a double crochet, and then come back and I'll show you how to start row 2. See you back here in just a moment. Alright, now you're down to the end of your foundation chain and you're about to start row 2. So what I want you to do is we're going to chain 3. So 1, 2, and 3. Now get your other stitch marker and you're going to mark that 3rd chain, because when you come back the other way on row 3, that's where you'll end your row, right into where that stitch marker is. You're going to turn your work, so you're going to take your project and you're going to turn it just like the page of a book from right to left, and then now you're going to go back the other way. Let me get some more yarn here. Now this pattern is a 1-row repeat. So I'm going to show you how to do row 2, and this is how you're going to do every row throughout the rest of your project. Now you see below where you had a double crochet right here and right here, you're going to do your stitch into the space in between those 2 double crochets. See, if you pull them apart, you'll see this opening. That's where you're going to do your stitch. So you're going to yarn over and you're going to put your hook through the space in between those double crochets, yarn over and pull it up. Now you need to pull up your yarn a little bit to where it's even. You see how it's even right here? You're going to yarn over and pull it through the first 2 loops, then you're going to yarn over and pull it to the second 2 loops. That's your double crochet. Now you're going to go to the next 2 double crochets, and see there's a space here between them. That's what you're going to do your stitch. You're not going to go into the top of the stitch, you're going to go in the space between them. So yarn over, put it through that space, pull it up, and you're going to do your double crochet. And then that's what you're going to do all the way down this row. Into the next space between those double crochets, you're going to put a double crochet into the space between them. Go all the way down to the end, and when you get to where you have the last 2, you double crochet and your chain on the end. Come back and I'll show you how to end the row and start your next row. See you back here in just a moment. Okay, I'm all the way down to the end. I did my stitch here between those 2 double crochets. Now I just have the last 2 left. This is my double crochet, and this is where I did this is my first chain 3, right? Okay, so now what I'm going to do, instead of going in between these 2 stitches, I'm going to go right into where that stitch marker is. That's marking that chain, top of the chain 3. So I'm going to go right into that stitch to finish off the row. Not in the space, but in the chain, top of the chain 3. So I'm going to take my stitch marker off there, and that's where I'm going to put my crochet hook when I do my stitch. Lay it to the side. Yarn over and go right into that chain stitch pull it up, and I'm going to do my double crochet. And that ends row 2. To start the next row, I'm going to do chain 3. So 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to take my stitch marker and I'm going to mark that last chain that I just did. That's my turning chain. I'll mark that chain because when we come back the other way, we're going to do our last stitch, double crochet stitch into that chain. Now I'm going to take my work, I'm going to turn it from right to left, and then I'm going to go back the other way, doing double crochets in between each of the stitches on the row below, all the way down to the very end. Then when I get to the end and I have one space left, instead of going into that space, you're going to do a double crochet right into that top of that turning chain, that chain 3 turning chain. You'll go right into that stitch rather than that space. And that's your repeating pattern throughout your entire blanket. When you finish all of your rows, come back. I'll show you how to fasten off and sew in your yarn tails. See you in just a bit. Okay, I'm down to my last stitch on the row of my last row. So, like I said earlier, we need to do our last stitch in the 3rd chain of that turning chain. So I took off my stitch marker, going to do a double crochet right into that chain, yarn over and pull it through. Oops, came apart. Pull it through, yarn over, pull it through. Now I'm going to fasten off my work. So I'm going to cut myself a pretty good yarn tail here so I can sew it in. So to fasten off, you're going to yarn over and pull that yarn tail all the way through, and then give it a good snug pull, and that fastens it off there at the very end. Now I'm going to get my yarn needle. You see what I did with it. Here it is. Going to put that right in there. And I'm going to take my yarn needle and just sew in that yarn tail in the project. And I'm completely done. All right, we're done, everybody. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.